So let's begin. Chup chup, chup chup, chup chup. Let's begin our practice together with paying homage to the Buddha. And this paying homage to the Buddha is really recognizing that there is a nature in you, there is a capacity in you to be free. And that capacity and that nature to be free is not about someone in particular. It is not about a story, it is not about the past or the future, but it is limitless brightness, limitless openness, limitless compassion, wisdom, direct experience, and it's very simple. So we all have this Buddha nature in us, and when we chant, paying homage to the Buddha, we bring up that energy and that spirit of Buddha nature. Okay, so we'll start with a chant. Chup, 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 chup. And we'll also take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So we recognize that we have this capacity to become enlightened, to become free from suffering, to wake up from the dream of complicated thinking and desires and attachment and ignorance. And from that capacity, we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Buddhist teachings, the wisdom teachings, and we take refuge in the Sangha, the community of well-minded practitioners. So we'll start with a little bit of chanting. I invite everyone to bring their hands together and chant along with me. And if you know the words, you can join in or just listen. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. For most of us, it will be really difficult to stay here for the full period of time of this event, of this talk, of this exercise in mindfulness and detachment. This is because we are mainly concerned with, we are mainly involved with ignorance and attachment, false understanding, wrong views, wrong thinking, wrong actions. And we are grasping onto anything we can get our hands onto as a way to deal with the situation we find ourselves in. So this is to live in the world of ignorance and attachment. This is to live in the world of desire and fear. This is to be in samsara and relying on samsara, this world of illusion, world of grasping, world of confusion, world of desire and fear. It is being sold to many of us that you will solve this problem of ignorance and attachment, or you will solve this problem of suffering by purchasing an iPhone, by ordering something on Amazon, by eating food, by sleeping, by fulfilling your sexual desire, by avoiding that which is uncomfortable or inconvenient, and chasing after that which you believe is comfortable and convenient. In this space and in this practice, and with the supporting conditions that are here, we have the opportunity to practice mindfulness and detachment. This is not a normal situation. This is not a Walmart or a McDonald's or the Amazon website. And me bringing this up is not a personal attack on anyone or to blame or to shame. But it is to point out that if you are mainly here under your normal way of operation, your way of attachment to ideas, to views, to perceptions, to stories, to thoughts, to things that you see, to things that you feel in the body, you will not be able to stay here very long, because this is not set up for attachment. This is not set up for desire to be met. In this way, being here, we need to emphasize the action of mindfulness. This will be difficult, to be mindful, to be aware of what is happening moment by moment, and to exercise the present action of mindfulness is not easy. Your mind, the moment that you start to meditate, the moment that you start to feel any sense of comfortableness, your mind will immediately go into the grasping modality, the modality of ignorance and attachment. You will make up some idea why you shouldn't be here or why this isn't ideal. You will follow that ideal, and then you will go grasp or attach to something or someone or someplace. So being here is difficult, and yet we can do it through the action of mindfulness. The action of mindfulness is the action of present moment awareness. A good way to do it or to exercise it, present moment awareness of breathing. But mindfulness, or the present moment action of mindfulness, is not about breathing. It's not even about a body or a mind. It's not about what you think. It's not about your life story. It's not about the feelings in your body. Mindfulness is the present moment action of awareness itself, noticing itself. So emphasizing the present moment action of mindfulness of breathing, that is enough. It's like we're going for a trip or we're going on a car ride together. All that you need to do is make sure that you're buckled in, because there will be accident after accident after accident. There will be mistake after mistake after mistake. There will be bump after bump after bump. If you have any difficulties joining in the Discord, you can watch through YouTube. You can follow along. There is a lot of habit energy to desire and fear. There is a lot of habit energy to complicated thinking, to grasping. So we're not going to be able to deal with that completely, but we can endure, we can be mindful of it and not let it control us. We can think things and not believe in them. We can feel things in the body and not react to them immediately. Just aware. Just the present moment action of mindfulness of breathing. This is not stimulating in the same way that McDonald's is stimulating, or buying something is stimulating, or watching content is stimulating. I like to say it in terms of medicine. Do you suffer? Are you completely free and completely happy and peaceful all the time and totally enlightened? Well, why are you here? If you are here for that, because of that, well, you're here as an act of generosity and sharing and presence. There's a lot of joy in that. But if you are here because you're suffering, because you have difficulty in your life, that's why I'm here. I think that's why all of us are here, because of ignorance and attachment. We shouldn't expect that the medicine for this suffering or the solution for this difficulty is going to be the same as eating Starburst candy. Okay? Or the same as eating or sleeping or sexual activity. Don't allow boredom to control you. Don't allow excitement to control you. Don't allow difficulty to control you. Use difficulty to be mindful. Use boredom to be mindful. Use excitement or curiosity to be mindful, to penetrate into this present moment experiencing. And we can exercise relaxing the body and mind. We can exercise the present moment action of mindfulness, of breathing. We can practice that. But we should also have an understanding that this action of mindfulness, this present moment action of mindfulness of breathing, is not about the breath. You are not someone. This is not about you. This is not about me. This is not about any place in particular, any person in particular, any experience in particular, any story in particular. Let's open up the holy book and see what's inside. These are the causes and conditions. This is the environment for mindfulness and detachment. Please try to stay for the full period of time, and we will have opportunity for question and answer as well and sharing experience. But first, let's read from the holy book and let's see what happens. Let's explore from our present moment experiencing. Let's explore from our present moment experiencing rather than our thinking, rather than our narratives, rather than our ideas and stories and beliefs. Let's try. These are stories, teachings from ancient Zen masters, ultimate enlightened masters. So try to listen deeply and see what they have to say through your present moment experiencing rather than your complicated thinking, your stories, your jumping around mind. The founding teacher of Zen came from the West, specially expounding this great matter: just valuing understanding outside words, directly penetrating top to bottom. What is understanding outside words? What is understanding that does not rely on words and phrases? Directly penetrating top to bottom. Why would this great truth depend on chanting morning and night on the corner of a meditation seat to be construed as Buddhism or the Chan path? So, if the founding teacher of Zen came from India to China, expounding this matter of valuing understanding outside words, directly penetrating top to bottom, then why would the path depend on chanting morning and night on the corner of a meditation seat? Why would this be understood as Buddhism or the Zen path, the path to enlightenment? How could doing special practices, meditating, chanting, etc., be construed or understood as the true path if we are talking about this matter of just valuing understanding outside words? Just valuing understanding that is outside words. This is different from a normal environment, a normal social situation, a normal topic for discussion, because we aren't using our thoughts. We aren't using our stories. We aren't using our words and phrases. We aren't even using our experiences to penetrate into this matter. It's the experiencing itself that we are exfoliating. It is mindfulness and detachment. Every action, everything that you are aware of is to be mindful of only and detached from only. Aware, 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 aware. So in this case, why would understanding about the truth depend on chanting or meditating? Why would this be understood as true Buddhism or the Zen path? Yet, it will not do to reject what is received from a teacher and seek on your own. Those who attain from seeking on their own are really followers of the 96 kinds of outsiders. So that this matter of recognizing that the ultimate understanding, the ultimate number one spirituality, okay, the number one enlightenment, the true gold standard of spirituality and ultimate truth, don't even have to call it spirituality, the ultimate truth, reality, is this understanding that is outside words, directly penetrating top to bottom. Even though this is the case, it will not do to reject what is received from a teacher and seek on your own. It will not do to reject Buddhism or reject the skillful practices, the skillful ways of living. Those who attain from seeking on their own are really followers of the 96 kinds of outsiders. So people who don't get it. They are outside the path. They are not in the flow of the path because they are rejecting. If you've heard something, you can't reject it. If you experience something, you can't reject it. You've experienced it. It's to be mindful of and detached from only. But detachment is not rejection. Detachment is mindfulness only, experiencing only, without someone, without some place, without some time. In and of itself, it is not grasping, not contrived, not complicated, not convoluted. So you don't add an extra layer of rejecting anything to that direct experiencing, to that mindfulness, to that detachment. The detachment is detached in itself. The mindfulness is mindful in itself. Know someone who says, I reject that. The great master Chan Qing held up his staff and said, if you know this, your task of study is finished. The great master Yun Men said, if you know this, why not stop? These two elders are both superior as far as superiority is concerned, and both inferior as far as inferiority is concerned. Their outreach is worthy of praise, but when it comes to profound talk entering principle, they still lack enlightenment. Where are Chan Qing and Master Yun Men now? They are abiding in my tea. Delicious. The great way is even. Originally, there is no delusion or enlightenment. We can also say it like this. The ultimate truth, the original reality, is even, balanced. There is no you in it. Originally, there is no you, no someone, no person, no place, no time, no world, nothing. The great way is even. Originally, there is no delusion or enlightenment. Originally. It is because sentient beings get confused, following illusions and getting excited, turning away from awareness and getting mixed up in objects, producing all sorts of discrimination. That there come to be 4 kinds of birth, 6 tendencies, and 9 states of existence, causing them to drift in the waves of the triple world without cease, without end. Does this sound like anyone to you? It is because sentient beings get confused, following illusions, following appearances, seeing images in the clouds and then following those images, attaching to those images, and getting excited about right and wrong, getting excited about true and false, getting excited about this and that, following illusions and getting excited, turning away from awareness, turning away from present moment awareness, present moment action of mindfulness, and getting mixed up in objects, producing all kinds of discrimination, all kinds of picking and choosing. That there comes to be 4 kinds of birth, 6 tendencies, and 9 states of existence, causing them to drift in the waves of the triple world without cease. It is because you won't stop that you don't float, and because of that, you are twisted and turned in this world of illusion, in this ocean of waves and movement, and you exhaust yourself grasping onto objects in an ocean where objects do not exist. And eventually you get exhausted, you drown. 4 kinds of birth, 6 tendencies, 6 ways of being, 9 states of existence, above and below, positive and negative. causing you to drift in the waves of the triple world without end. Why? Because sentient beings get confused, following illusions and getting excited, turning away from awareness and getting mixed up in objects, producing all sorts of discrimination, confusions. Don't turn away from awareness. Don't turn away from the present moment action of mindfulness. Develop your relationship with it. Learn how to rely on it. Learn how to practice with it. We have an offering from the beings that are surrounding this place. Oh. If you are able, in the midst of that, okay, this is speaking directly. If you are able, in the midst of your confusion, your complicatedness, your tumbling head over feet in these waves of delusion, complicated thinking, self identification, right, wrong, good, bad, understanding, not understanding, if you are head over heels in this world, in this ocean of duality, okay, if you are able, in the midst of that, to hear a good word or see a good act, so that you realize in an instant where you were wrong and immediately arrive directly at the immovable state of the realized, this is called enlightenment. Cat's out of the bag. But where do delusion and enlightenment come from to begin with? If you think they come from mind, mind is not mind of itself. If you think they come from illusion, illusion is not illusion of itself. So where are mind and illusion? You should know that space in the 10 directions is born in your mind, like a snowflake dotting absolute clarity. If you see through in this way, you will know space in the 10 directions cannot be grasped. So since space cannot be grasped, the height of the mountains, the depths of the oceans, small and large, long and short, stand out before your eyes. How can they be removed? How can the truth be removed from your present moment action of mindfulness and detachment? This is the step forward from a high cliff. As soon as you get self-protective, there is no way to complete the task under the patch robe. Think about this. So since space cannot be grasped, the height of the mountains, the depths of the oceans, small and large, long and short, stand out before your eyes. How can they be removed? This is the step forward from a high cliff. As soon as you get self-protective, there is no way to complete the task under the patch robe. Think about this. Now, the major point here is at the beginning, and we can easily get confused or get attached or get transfixed by any appearance. We shouldn't set up this to be important and that to be less important. Okay? The great way is even. Originally, there is no delusion or enlightenment. Okay, reality. What is reality? Well, originally, it's even. There is no body, no you, no someone, no place, no time. Originally, it's even. It is because sentient beings like us get confused, following illusions, following appearances, following ideas, following identification with objects, with words, getting excited, following illusions and getting excited, turning away from awareness and getting mixed up in objects, mixed up in stories, ideas, words and phrases, people, places, right and wrong, good and bad. Turning away from awareness, turning away from the present moment action of mindfulness and detachment. The head that sticks out is the head that gets cleared. We need to become skillful to clear, to finish, to end, and know that that finishing and that ending is the natural law, ever new impermanent nature, the finishing, the ending, the refreshing, the restarting. Like a sword of wisdom or a great warrior's sword, a great knight's sword does not discriminate between white or black, right or wrong, good or bad, wealthy or poor. The great sword slices through all, slices through mountains, slices through the heavens, slices through the sky. How much more so does it slice through this body and mind cleanly? So we also need to become skillful to wield this sword. The sword of the ending, the finishing, the resolving, the untangling. It is because sentient beings get confused, following illusions and getting excited, turning away from awareness and getting mixed up in objects, producing all sorts of discrimination. That is why there comes to be 4 kinds of birth, 6 tendencies, 9 states of existence, causing them, these sentient beings like us, to drift in the waves of the triple world without cease. Be gentle. If you are able in the midst of that, this twisting and turning, this complicatedness, this neurosis, this neurotic thinking, this anger, fear, delusion, greed, if you are able in the midst of that, in the midst of it, not when things work out or go your way or when it's resting time, but in the midst of being in the waves, in the ocean, in the storm, and being out, you can't control the ocean, and yet you're in it and turning and twisting. If you're able in the midst of that to hear a good word or to see a good act so that you realize in an instant where you were wrong and immediately arrive directly at the immovable state of the realized, this is called enlightenment. So what is the immovable state of the realized? Well, it's not words and phrases, is it? It is the great way that is even, without delusion or enlightenment, without fault, error, or truth, without control or submission. You can't control the ocean. but you can cut right through it and realize your mistake. So, where do delusion and enlightenment come from to begin with? So, what is delusion? Well, let's say we're stuck in suffering, in anger, in greed, in anxiety, in depression, in paranoia, in non practical, complicated thinking, right? Let's say we're stuck in that or we're lost in that. Let's call that delusion, the world of delusion. We're stuck in a dream. So, where do delusion and enlightenment? So, what's the enlightenment? It's the resolving, it's the finishing, it's the waking up, right? It's that you couldn't wake up. You were so tired, you were so anxious, you were so depressed, and yet eventually you do wake up and you feel the freshness and you feel the freedom and you feel that suffering and that attachment and that complicatedness just fall off of you. Where did it come from? Where did it go? Nowhere. It's burned up. So where does this delusion and enlightenment, where do these experiences come from to begin with? If you think they come from mind, right? So now it's, well, where does this come from? What are we dealing with here? And then we point back to our mind or our complicated thinking, our perception faculty, our name capacity faculty, right? This ability to name things and judge things and idea about things, right? This mind. So where do these delusion and enlightenment come from? Well, maybe it comes from the mind. If you think they come from mind, mind is not mind of itself. That's just the name. The mind is inherently not the mind. What is it? The questioning itself. If you think they come from illusion, illusion is not illusion of itself. So where are mind and illusion? What are these things? Coming back to the questioning again. You should know that space in the 10 directions is born in your mind, like a snowflake dotting absolute clarity. Space in the 10 directions. All vast, open space, everything is like a snowflake dotting absolute clarity. You are everything. But you are not you in itself. You is not you in itself. Everything is not everything in itself. It's only the name. If you see through in this way, you will know space in the 10 directions cannot be grasped. So if you can see through this appearance of the mind as not being the mind in and of itself, because you're aware of it, what is that awareness in itself? Aware is not aware in itself, just aware. Continuously like a snowflake on a red-hot stovetop, vanishing. If you can see through in this way that everything is like a snowflake dotting absolute clarity, you will know space in the 10 directions cannot be grasped. You will know that the mind cannot be grasped. You will know that illusion cannot be grasped. You will know that success cannot be grasped. Failure cannot be grasped. Yourself, that someone, that situation, that place, that environment, that pleasure, that pain, that boredom cannot be grasped. So since space cannot be grasped, the height of the mountains, the depths of the oceans, small and large, long and short, stand out before your eyes. How can they be removed? Reality is staring you right in your face right now. How can it be removed? How can it be ignored? How can it be disregarded? How can it not be seen directly, clearly? Reality looking back at you. That which cannot be grasped, and yet the height of the mountains. Since space cannot be grasped, the height of the mountains, since the mind cannot be grasped, illusion cannot be grasped, the root cannot be grasped, your true self cannot be grasped. Since it's like that, the height of the mountains, the depths of the oceans, small and large, long and short, stand out before your eyes. Everything is immediately clear and transparent. It's right in front of you. So how can they be removed? How can these things be removed? Everything, this solidity of our anxiety, our fear, our real true person, a real true story, our anxiety, our depression, our sleepiness, our hunger, our fear, our complicatedness. How can it be removed? This is the step forward from a high cliff. Right forward. Right to penetrate to clarity, to the truth, to the ending, the finishing, the resolving of everything. Not grasping the not grasping itself. This is the step forward from a high cliff. As soon as you get self-protective, as soon as you try to control or contrive or grasp in any sense, as soon as you get self-protective, there is no way to complete the task under the patch robe. As soon as you clench, grasp, contrive, as soon as you believe in, then there's no way that you can complete the task that you need to complete, which is to finish, which is to enlighten, which is to resolve, which is to exercise the present moment action of mindfulness and detachment. This is to step forward from a high cliff. Think about this. Penetrate this. This is to exercise the present moment action of mindfulness and detachment. Whatever it appears to be, it is not that in and of itself. Whatever arises is not that in and of itself. It's impermanence. The only thing that's permanent is impermanence. Impermanence is impermanent. There's no contradiction there. There's no confusion there. It's only clarity. Ever new impermanent nature, the field of reality, the field of making merit, of doing good, of being mindful, of mindfulness and detachment is very difficult but completely available. We may not be able to grasp the source. We may not be able to understand ourselves fully or completely. Understanding ourselves or not understanding ourselves, or grasping the teaching or not grasping the teaching, is not important. The present moment action of mindfulness is important. Doing good deeds is important. And the greatest good deed that we can do is to be mindful. Mindful of what? Mindful of your heart beating. Mindful of the breath breathing. Mindful of this body that needs attention, needs to be held, needs to be cared for, needs to be mindful of. Every moment. We went over this yesterday. Every moment, every action, mental action, physical action, verbal action is to be mindful of only. Not to be attached, not to be complicatedness about, not to be contrived, convoluted, added onto, understood. It's to be used only. It's to be mindful of only each and every present moment action, mental, physical, verbal. In this way, there's no guru, there's no master, there's no complicated teaching for us to adopt. There is the practice. And there is the human. To be generous, to be kind, to be patient, to be mindful. Not about being right. Not about a teacher or a student. Not about being recognized. It's only to be mindful. And it's only now. This present moment action, mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of this is the field of merit. This is the field of practice, this body and mind. This is the medicine. This is the most important thing for us to do as human beings, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Every heartbeat is beating only. Every breath breathing is breathing only. And that contrived mind or that complicated mind, convoluted, stressed, past, future, desire, fear, judgmental, especially self-judgmental, that mind is cured. The medicine for that mind is given with the present moment action of mindfulness. Your heart is teaching you. Your breath is teaching you. Your stomach is teaching you. Your whole body right now is giving you a teaching. And it's not some story about your life. It's not some complicated system of spirituality. It's just come home, come home, come home. Just be mindful. Mindful only, heart beating only, breathing only, and it's right there. Seeing only, hearing only. Now, when the conditions are ripe, when we have the good conditions, this may be more convenient, more suitable, more possible, but in general, it's very difficult. It's more difficult than our business life. It's more difficult than our relationship life. It's more difficult than our societal life. So, we need to emphasize doing good deeds. We need to emphasize concerning ourselves with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. We're in a real practical situation. So we need to have real practical steps, stones to step on. If we're crossing a stream and we choose stones to step on because they seem solid as we can see, that doesn't mean we become a religious fanatic or we have to identify even as a religious person. It means that we're doing our best to not get our feet wet. We're doing our best to make our way across the river. And we've got to learn how to start listening to our gut and our heart and our breathing, and not just this complicated, psychological, capitalistic, self-fixated, isolated narrative of, who we're supposed to be or what we're supposed to do. So we emphasize, prioritize, most of all, to be mindful, not to get attached. But to do that, we need to live a virtuous life. We need to develop our relationship with generosity. There's all kinds of ways that we can do good deeds. There's all kinds of ways that we can practice generosity, but we need to emphasize generosity. We need to emphasize doing good deeds. We need to emphasize mindfulness. We need to emphasize experiencing only. And yes, now especially, but also wholeheartedly. And if we can really, once we start to work on this relationship with mindfulness, okay, yeah, we have a cheat code. Yeah, we have a special ability to do good deeds limitlessly, to do good deeds all the time, to be good deeply, consistently. Now we know how to enter into the BC lifestyle, to be based and chill. And when we get caught up, it's like we read in that text, when we get caught up in those waves of discriminations, picking and choosing, non-practical, complicated thinking, and then we find ourselves in all these different realms of experience, a realm of depression, a realm of authority, a realm of not being able to control anything, right? Completely being out of control, which we can find ourselves in these realms mentally or physically. If we can hear a good act or see a good deed, hear a good word, a word of, can be anything, can be the sound of a bird, it can be the wind. We can immediately turn the mind around and recognize this immovable state. We can recognize the nature of this body and mind, which is not someone. And we don't need to wait for a time-traveling cyber samurai from 2099 to cut us in half with their samurai sword in one instant to show us that. We can show ourselves that with our wisdom, with our insight, by being receptive to all these teachers that are constantly around us that say, oh, it's not some big, complicated story. It's not about being excited. It's about coming home and walking and breathing and heart beating with mindfulness and with freedom and generosity. Detachment is freedom and generosity. And I wish so much to convey to our group here, because we have people from all different backgrounds and perspectives and situations, that this is a this is a house that is built on a foundation that our ancestors have built. Our ancestors have dug and developed and poured concrete and given their lives for this life of wisdom and compassion and generosity and fearlessness and bravery and power. It's not just this is another thing for us to adopt or get involved with. These robes are not my robes. These are the robes of Buddha. These are the robes of my ancestors. Not just in the realm of Buddhism, but in the truth. The truth is not exclusive to Buddhism, but many traditions are less known. Many great masters or great leaders are less known and less established just because of certain causing conditions. So we can use this foundation that Buddhism has to offer us in all aspects of our lives. So when we concern ourselves with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha can also concern itself with us. And that is my real experience. And that is my sharing for the group today. Okay. So thank you. Let's listen to 3 sounds of the bell. Listen to 3 sounds of the bell together, and then we'll open up the space for Q&A and sharing experience. Okay. And as we hear the sound of the bell, we can take it to be the bell of mindfulness or the sound of freedom. Okay. So we can open the space now for Q&A. And in this style of teaching or this style of facilitating that I'm doing, it's important to understand that the direction of the teaching or the sharing from the great Zen Masters of Old or from myself is to direct you to the place of mindfulness and detachment. And if we try to dissect or kind of, what does this mean? What does this mean? We can do that, but it should always be from this place of mindfulness and detachment. Okay, so please, if you have a question or something to share, you're very welcome.
Actually, I have 2 questions, if that's fine. And
Okay.
the first would be, is the experience self-evident?
Is the experience self-evident? Maybe you could say more about what that means for you.
I mean, it's based on basically nothing. It's a brute fact. And if someone would say that, no, the experience is not self-evident for them, then I would suspect that maybe they're not experiencing anything. But I can't prove that I'm experiencing anything, right? But it seems right before me, like I see the experience, and this would make me think that it is self-evident.
I'm not sure I quite understand what your question is or what the idea is.
Yeah, maybe I'll try once more. The idea is that some things are not self-evident. We have to find them out somehow. So maybe we discover that there's like a ninth planet orbiting the sun, and that's not self-evident. We can't know it just by itself. We have to actually find the planet, right? Or maybe there's like 10 cars outside in the parking lot. It's not self-evident. We would have to go into the parking lot and count the cars, and then we would have the knowledge of whether that is the case or not. And I guess the same question is for the experience. Do we need something to verify that the experience does exist? Or can we just say that it's a brute fact, it exists on its own, there's nothing to verify it, and that's that?
Well, you will know through your experience, right? You will know through, if you consider this to be something meaningful for you. Like, not everyone is concerned with the truth. So the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is concerned with the truth. That is the explicit emphasis or priority for the Buddhist path, to become enlightened, to know about reality for oneself. And the Buddhist teachings are to kind of come and see for yourself. It's not about believing in something, right? So even from our hour-long gathering here, what exactly are you to believe in? So rather than it be something that the self believes in, it's more to experience directly what's in front of you. And for me, if I look directly at what's in front of me, even though there's all kinds of things going on, there's different people here, there's different stories or ways of perception that can be brought up here and be valid, right? Different views. There's also this naturalness of the situation. There's this clarity that whatever story or whatever belief or complicated ideas that I would create or add on to this situation are definitely add-ons. And that reality as it is, you can see it, you can experience it without much complicatedness needed.
All right, maybe I'll ask my second question then.
It's
Do
like
you think that
your heart beating. So in your heart beating, can you experience that directly? And in experiencing that directly in that present moment of mindfulness, what else do you need? What's there to be confused about? What's there to understand? Where is the delusion or the enlightenment in your present moment breathing or in your heart beating?
is it fine if I ask a second question?
Sure, go ahead.
So, what do you think about something like the law of contradiction? Is it based on our experience? Are we modeling these ideas after our experience? Or is the law of non-contradiction self-evident?
Well, what if I didn't speak English?
Well,
Is there a
then I will
contradiction?
take,
Right, is there a contradiction in that? So there's not an ultimate meaning
uh,
to what we say. The ultimate meaning is not in what we say or what we think. The ultimate meaning is not the ultimate meaning in and of itself. The contradiction is not a contradiction in and of itself. A tree is not a tree in and of itself. Not even to talk about philosophy or intellect or these different, ways of understanding it, but even a tree. It's like you're not going to debate with a tree, right? A tree is like a representation of reality. A tree is not a tree in and of itself. A tree is everything, literally. Everything, everything. A tree is the ocean, it's the sun, it's the sky, it's the universe. The tree is the cosmos looking at us. No separation and no discrimination is the emphasis of mindfulness and detachment. So to be mindful only and to not add anything extra onto it. If you want to know more about mindfulness or detachment, you need to practice more mindfulness and detachment.
I just want to thank you for your answer.
Okay, you're welcome. Gloria, would you like to share anything or ask anything?
Could you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yes.
Yes, not at this moment.
Okay. David asks a question about coming back home. What does this mean? And it's to kind of find yourself in the turmoil of complicated thinking or anxiety or delusions or being hyper focused on the past or the future, and then to bring yourself back to the present moment, bring yourself back to that awareness. And it's also, I think, a lot about it in terms of waking up. It's like when you're tired and you want to wake up, but you're tired, and there's this fog or this confusion about, I want to wake up, but I'm tired, so what do I do? Well, you just wake up, you just get up. And in that moment, or a few moments later, you experience detachment from that tiredness. Even though at that moment you felt, you were sinking in it, you were in a swamp of tiredness, of sleepiness. So the more that we can exercise to detach from sleepiness, the more that we can exercise to come home, the more skillful we will be at doing it, and the more faith we will have in that capacity, so that sleepiness doesn't trick us so much. So that being lost in complicated, judgmental thinking about ourselves or the others or past or future actions, mental, physical, or verbal, it doesn't confuse us so much. We just come home. And in that way, we become more and more skillful, more and more mindful in how we take care of our mental, physical, and verbal actions. I like this, like points of value, points of meaning, right? Like what's valuable is what's precious or what's important to us. If someone were to give anyone here $1 million, which is unfathomable, uncomprehendable amount of money, right, or $100,000, this would be, you would really focus on it, and there wouldn't even be a question of you believing in the validity of that, or it's almost, money is almost righteous, right? $100,000, it's almost righteous or holy in a certain sense, and that's valid and that's real. And you might be depressed, you might be anxious, you might be dealing with some relationship, but that's $100,000 cash, and that's that. And you give your attention to that and you value that, right? So who here would trade? Who here would trade their seeing faculty for $100,000 cash? I'm guessing no one. So there is a point of value, there is a point of meaning for you right now that's more valuable than $100,000 right now, that is your seeing faculty. But that seeing faculty is the seeing in the seeing itself. It's just seeing. So investigating, looking into being with just seeing rather than the objects that we see, the stories we tell about those objects, the likes and dislikes, the narratives that we create around what we see, the skepticism, right? Just the seeing. And recognizing that that is way more profound, way more important than even $100,000 given to you directly. So we meditate on, or we face, or we penetrate into the seeing itself rather than our skepticism or our willingness to be judgmental to ourselves or to fixate onto things we can't control. But just coming back to the present action of mindfulness. And we can use certain elements of our experience, value points, meaning points, to deepen that mindfulness or inspire that mindfulness to really be rich. It's just that some things are so valuable that we can't see how valuable they are. So we've just got to practice. It's not what we think about it or what we believe about it. Who cares what you think or what you believe? I don't.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm thinking about transcendence and detachment.
Yeah.
So transcending above all the news and information that is coming in, also letting go of the worldview, kind of conditioned mind. It sounds also like a detachment to me, and I'm trying to understand what's the difference between transcendence and detachment. Well, I don't speak English very well.
Right. So the more we are mindful of the body and mind, the more we will detach from the body and mind. Because we are kind of falling into a dream mindset, and we are emphasizing the pleasure of the dream or the pain of the dream or the content of the dream, we're not experiencing that the pain, the pleasure, and the general content of the dream, just as it is not satisfying to us, right? It's like, oh, that watching TV doesn't satisfy me. Eating doesn't satisfy me. Drinking doesn't satisfy me. This relationship, that person, that idea doesn't satisfy me. Mental experiences don't satisfy me. This physical experience doesn't satisfy me. So the more that we are mindful of that which is not satisfactory, what will we do? We'll detach. So we will be mindful of the body and more able to detach from the body, which is not to reject it. We're not fighting against the body. It's like a noticing. It's like, is a baby satisfactory? Well, no, they're pooping and peeing. They're wonderful. They're lovely, right? These babies are just precious angels, but they're also not satisfactory, right? There's a lot we could improve on them. So if there's a lot that you could improve about that situation, you don't need to grasp onto it as being the ultimate. That doesn't mean you reject it or you try to get rid of it or that even you try to change it. You just recognize that that's not worthy to rely on. And if you don't rely on it, you are free of it. And if you're free of it, by nature, you transcend it. And we can really do this very, very deeply. We underestimate the power of mindfulness and detachment, or we underestimate the solidity and the clarity of how reality exists right here and right now, that it doesn't exist in another place. And so your mind, on an extreme negative side, right? Your mind, if it's completely anxious and depressed, doesn't matter where you go. Or if you're in a deep state of addiction, right? A deep state of depression. It doesn't matter where you go or who you're around. You're anxious as all get out. You're depressed as all get out, right? But it also applies, I mean, there's kind of a hard limit for how low you can go, because the more low you get, the more you're kind of weak and just tumbling and turning. It's not, you can't really develop going low or being more depressed. You get to a point you're just falling over yourself. Whereas with being good or being mindful, being detached, transcending, brightening, enlightening, there's not a clear limit, right, of mindfulness and detachment. It's limitless. So you can get to a state of freedom where you don't identify with this body or this mind as being me or I. So if even I don't identify with this body or mind as being, let's say, satisfactory, so I don't rely on it, I have the capacity not to rely on it, then who else is going to come along and say, no, you have to rely on it? Or say, no, you have to think like this, or I think this way, so you need to, I'm angry, so you need to be angry. I'm anxious, so you need to be anxious. I believe this about you, so you need to indulge in that. I believe this about myself, so you also need to indulge in that. It's just freedom. It's just brilliance and light. And as an outsider, we may come up to that situation and say, "Oh, this person is pretending that they don't understand, or that they're not identifying with what this person identifies with." But actually, it's freedom. And some people are so locked into their attachment and their ignorance that they think other people need to operate from a position of ignorance and attachment. You don't. Just because you wield a sword doesn't mean that you need to cut down this person and not cut down that person. The sword is just the sword. It can do freely. So that transcendence, or that mindfulness and detachment, it's a really special way of approaching our life and reality that is not limited in the normal ways of how we identify with a story, or how we are prone to believe in other people's stories. Not even believing in our own body or mind, whatever that means, but mindful only, experiencing only. And the Buddhist monk system and the Buddhist world, to a large extent, has all of these systems set up to allow people to fully flesh out and live according to mindfulness and detachment, right? And not to be in a subservient position to ignorance and attachment. That's one of the base notions. Of course, Buddhism is human, right? We are human beings, so all of the baggage that goes along with being human goes along with Buddhism. But the core principles of the Buddhist teachings of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, and the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path is all about enlightenment, not about a creation story. It's not about going to heaven or hell. It's about becoming free. And this freedom is directly experiencing and knowing for oneself the truth of impermanence, the truth of no separation or no discrimination. That discrimination itself is kind of a put on. Discrimination is to be used only and experienced only, meaning like picking or choosing or setting up, I'm going to do things like this and you should do it like that. It's to be used only and experienced only. For what? For helping the others to become free, for making merit, for helping others do good deeds and to experience the effects of doing good deeds. My teacher said recently, the reason that people are worried about money is because they're not doing good deeds. If you start doing good deeds, you're not going to be worried about money. You'll be too busy experiencing the good effects of your good deeds to be worrying about money. And do you know how deep of a competitive edge that gives you in a modern society? Because people aren't prioritizing to be virtuous. It's not being emphasized in, capitalism and advertising and American media, which is the dominant cultural force. It does, we're not emphasizing to be virtuous. So if you can start to emphasize doing good deeds, it's really going to support you in whatever you need to be supported in. There's a saying, right, to rest in your virtue. Well, if you don't have much virtue, you don't have much to rest in. It's difficult to take a real rest, a deep rest. And if we become really virtuous, we can rest any place, any time, because our virtue is applicable in any place at any time with anyone. We can say, yeah, I've made mistakes. I was a jerk. I did wrong things, but I'm doing my best to be good and to help others be good, and that's that. And you say it as a law. You say it as a sovereign of truth because you are seriously concerned with being good and doing good and not doing bad. And there's so much power in that. There's so much authority in that, mostly for yourself. When I was growing up, just the cause and conditions and the environment that I grew up in, certain people that I interacted with, that meant that I had a certain mental state, a certain kind of experience, right? And it's not nature or nurture. These things go together. They're not separate. It's like, is a giraffe nature or nurture? A giraffe is a giraffe. It's not nature or nurture. So I experienced like a part of my mind just became so non-virtuous, so negative. It's like this ball of negative energy that it's like attacking me. It was like there was a part of myself that was attacking myself because I had fed and I had fueled this selfishness and just unskillfulness, right? I had fueled this actions of ignorance and attachment, false seeing, false understanding, wrong view, wrong action. And I developed it to such an extent that is like that took up a power of its own. And then I had to deal with that power of negativity in my own mind, right? But there's a hard limit to that because once you build that up to a certain extent, well, I mean, your body becomes sick, your mind becomes sick. You're just sick. You can't keep making actions. You're just lost in the sauce. You're just lost in suffering, right? But when it comes to the positive side, it's the same thing, but only now it's positive. It's supporting you. It's helping you. It's holding you. It's embracing you. It's nourishing you. It's brightening you. It's protecting you. Your virtue, your precepts, your good deeds, your generosity, your mindfulness. It's protecting you. But that you can build more and more and more. It's limitless. And it's just going to keep freeing you and opening you and helping you and others more and more and more. And we need people who are willing to take on this responsibility because there's way too many people growing up. That's how I grew up, and it's how a lot of kids are growing up these days, where they think, everybody's on a spectrum. And the spectrum that they've seen is like, okay, yeah, people can be fine, I guess. And then there's some people that are basically kind of good, I guess. And then there's all these people that are just horrible and negative and don't care and are toxic and lost, right? And mental illness. And they don't know that this entire other spectrum exists. And how do you get to that spectrum? By emphasizing to be good, to do good, to be generous, to offer out, to widen out, to give out, to work for the others, to donate your time, your energy, your mind, your body and mind, your possessions to use for the others. Following precepts, following ethical guidelines for living, making that essential in your life. Mindfulness and detachment, wisdom. And you become a carrier of that torch. And we need more and more people that are like that and are influencing others in that way. We need it. They need it. So we do this work. It's not just for ourselves, but it's for all beings. It's for the others. And then we find avenues, we find ways to volunteer, to use this body and mind for the others, not just ourselves. Now, what are we exercising when we do that? We're exercising detachment from the body and mind, freedom from the body and mind, transcendence of the body and mind. And we're also getting ourselves into trouble, but it's the good kind of trouble. It's the expectation for us to go and be generous. It's the expectation for us to go and share and embrace and help and offer. And we meet that expectation because we know it's more valuable, meaningful, precious than just doing for ourselves. You don't need to reject anything. If you are sick, great. If you're healthy, great. If you're poor, great. If you're wealthy, great. If you're stable, great. If you're unstable, great. Do good deeds. Be mindful. Be generous. Refresh, restart. That's it. Constantly exercising the present moment action of mindfulness. That's real meditation. That's natural meditation. That's limitless meditation. That's life. That's changing your life. That's changing your mind. Okay, let's listen to 3 sounds of the bell. Okay, so let's finish with sharing the merit. Okay? And please try to understand and remember, it's not about a special state. It's not about a special experience. It's not about getting high on meditation. It's about the present moment action of mindfulness. Mindfulness and detachment. Doing good deeds, period. You're on your phone, be mindful. You're eating, be mindful. You're making a mistake, be mindful. Refresh, restart, and continue. That's it. The more you can be mindful, the more you will detach. All right, now merit here, just to say this before we finish, to dedicate the merits. Merit is not money. When we work for merits, we are doing good deeds for the good effects of doing good deeds. You don't make money by being generous, and yet how do you feel when you practice generosity? When you give food to somebody who needs it? When you give love to someone who needs it? When you give your ear to someone who needs it? When you offer out, when you share out, when you go for a run as an act of generosity, when you go for a walk, when you clean your room, when you take care as an act of generosity. Are you doing that for money, or are you doing that to experience the good effects of your good deeds? Okay, so when we listen to the Dhamma, when we practice mindfulness and detachment, when we gather together like this, inspiring one another, okay, everybody feels it. When we've got a lot of people in here like this and everyone's staying in, I mean, there's a lot of energy to that. So when we do good deeds like this together, we make merit. There's a lot of good effects that come from these practices, very subtle. And the dedication of the merit is that we don't just keep this for ourselves, but we recognize those merits, we recognize those benefits, and you'll feel it, you'll know it, and we offer that out for all. Okay? So I invite everyone to unmute their microphones, and you can bring your hands together with me and repeat after me. And it's great we can all hear each other's voice a little bit. Okay, just repeat after me. Okay. May all the merits that we have done till now
And all the merits we have done to now
All the merits we done until now
be dedicated and shared out
be dedicated and shared out
toward all sentient beings.
towards
all
all
sentient beings.
Sentient beings.
May all sentient beings
May
all
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 sentient
sentient
beings
beings
rejoice and share in our merits.
rejoice in
rejoice
our
and
share in
merits.
share
our
in our
merit.
May it be,
merits.
may it be,
May it be.
may it
May it
truly
be,
be.
May it
may it truly be.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, and we can make 3 deep bows.
How did you turn it on? I turned it on, but I can't do the volume.
Okay, much love, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting this Sangha, and see you again soon, okay? Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.